So out of the box, WordPress is a fantastic platform for building your website, but if you want to go a little bit further, there are a couple of plugins that I recommend checking out, and in this video I'm going to show you how we can use those alongside Elementor Pro to create something just a little bit more unique and bespoke. So if you're interested, stick around and check it out. My name is Paul C and welcome to WPTuts, where I show you how to create beautiful WordPress websites. If this is your first time on the channel, please consider subscribing and smashing that bell icon below to be notified every time new content is added to the channel. Okay, so in today's video we're going to be taking a look at advanced custom fields, custom post types, Elementor Pro templates, and combining all of that together to create something just a little unique. Now, we've just wrapped up a project that I'm working on for the band that I'm in, and one of the things I wanted was to have our own custom dates section on there. Now, obviously, this required either a plugin to do everything, of which I haven't found one that I particularly liked, or starting from scratch and building my own, which is the way that I did it. So I want to show you how I've achieved that, and it should give you a good basis for creating your own custom post types using these 3 plugins for WordPress. So let's just jump over to WordPress and take a look at how all of that is set up, configured, and how I've built everything. So before we kick this off, there are a couple of plugins we're going to need to download. Now, the one thing I want to make you aware of is that this is going to be a pretty quick tutorial. I'm not going to stop and show you every single tiny detail. If you're interested in finding more out about how to create websites using advanced custom forms, Elementor Pro, and custom post types, there's a link in the description below for a new video course that I'm working on. So if you'd like to find out more about that, check that out and it'll have a full breakdown of what's going to be included in that. But this is a kind of whistle-stop tour of how we can do it. Okay, so we've got advanced custom fields, we've got custom post types, and we've got Elementor Pro already installed and set up, ready to start working. So the first thing we need to do is create our first custom post type. Now, this is going to be a really simple example. We're just going to create a section for events. So what we're going to do is we're going to come down to the CPT UI, which is the custom post type UI. You can see we've got a couple of different options in there, and what we're looking for is add edit post types. So we're going to click in there. Once we've done that, you can see it brings us into the new dialog box that gives us a ton of different controls. So we don't need to fill everything out on here. You can keep it pretty basic. We can put the post slug, so we're going to put events. We're going to put the plural, which is events, and the singular, which is event. Now you can see we can scroll down and we've got things like post type, description, menu name, all items, and so on. We've got a ton of options in there, and if you want to go through all of those and fill those in, you can do exactly that. For this example, we don't need to. If we scroll right down the bottom, you can see we've got settings, and again, there's a ton of options in there. So things like has archive, show REST API, and so on. We're going to say, yes, we want this to have an archive, because the archive is basically the listing of all the different events that we've got. Now, we're going to create this through a custom post type or through a custom sort of template through Elementor Pro. So don't worry too much about it. We are going to say we want to have an archive. Everything else is pretty much left as is. You can see we can adjust the menu position, and for this we're going to put this in position 2, and everything else is looking fine. We can come in if we want to, and we can use a menu icon, and it's using the dash icon class name. So if you want to know what that is, you can simply do a search for the dash icons and find the icon you want, and that'll give you the class name. So if we just quickly open a new tab and find that website, you can see this is what we're looking for. Now we can go through and we can find exactly what we want. So let's just say, for example, we wanted a calendar icon. Then we've got the calendar icon by here. We can click on it. Then we can see there's the short code for it, or the class for it. So we'll just copy that, jump back over to our dashboard, and then just simply come down for the menu icon, drop that in there, and we should be good to go. So we've then got the option to say what we want to just display inside the editor section of our new post type, our custom post type. I'll leave those as they are for now. Everything else should be fine in there, so we can just leave that. We can use the built-in taxonomies if we want to, or if we wanted to create taxonomies of our own, we can do that with the add edit taxonomies option. We're going to leave that. We don't want to categorize these for now. We're just going to keep this really simple. It's just going to be events. Once we've done that, we're going to come back up, and you can see we got add post type. So we can simply click on there, or we can come to the bottom if we want to and say add post type down in there. So that'll save that out now and create our new post type. So you should see on the left hand side we now have events, and we've got all events and add new. So our custom post type is set up and ready to start working. Now if we click inside there and say let's add new, you can see all it gives us is the event name, the event description, or the content details, and the featured image. We've got nothing else, no custom fields. So the next thing we need to do is go through and create those custom fields and then assign it
to this new custom post type. So all we need to do is come over to custom fields. We're going to click on custom fields again. You can see at the moment I've already got one in there called exhibition details. We're going to create a new field group. So we're going to click on add new, and we're going to call this event details. We've got the rules then, and so the next thing we need to do is set the rules for when this will apply. And now basically the rules will say when it matches that rule, it'll show those custom fields. Anything that doesn't match those rules will be completely ignored. So we've got post type, we can click in there, or we can come through and we can do things like post category, and quite a few different options. We need to go and choose the right one for what we just created, which is to do custom post type. So what we're going to do is click, and we're going to come down and we're going to say post type is equal to, I'm going to click on there, and you can see by default it's saying post, that's the first option in there. If we did that, it would apply these custom fields to all the posts, not the events, which is what we want. So we're going to come down, choose events. So we're basically saying post type is equal to events. If that matches, then show the fields that we're going to create next. You can see then we've got some other options. We can come through and we can say the order number, the position, the style, and then what we want to hide on screen. Now this kind of ties in with the custom post type, so we don't really need to use any of these. We can leave these as they are. What we do want to do though is say we want to have a standard WP meta box, just because it styles things just a little nicer. Okay, so we've set the basics up now. The next thing we need to do is create the fields we want to use in our events. I'm going to click to add a new field. First thing we're going to do is we're going to call this event date. It'll fill out the field name for us. You can see then we've got the field types. We're going to click on there and we want to choose a date option. So if we come through, you can see we've got a load of options that we can choose from on there, like numbers, text, passwords, and so on. We just need to make sure we've got the date picker or the date and time picker. We're going to choose the date picker because we're not going to choose a time in there. We're going to say, yes, this is required. We can apply any field instructions if we want to. We then got the date format we want to display and how we want to save it. So make sure you set those up the right way for what it is you're creating. We'll leave those as they are for now. If we need to come back in and change them, we can change those later, and I'll show you how we can edit any of these fields easily later on. So there's the first field. Next thing we're going to do is add another field. I'm going to call this event location. Again, you can see it pre-fills out the field name. The field type is fine. We'll leave that as text. If we wanted to, we could put a text area in there, but text is fine. We're going to say, yes, this is required. We're going to leave everything else as it is. Add another field. And finally, we're just going to put in the event time. Again, that's fine. And we'll leave those details as they are. That's all good. We're going to just set that to make sure that it is required field, and the same for, yeah, everything is set at the way we want now. So we're going to click on publish. Now the beauty of working this way is if we need to add or edit any additional fields in the future, we can simply come back into the custom field section, open up the field group we've created, and add more in there. So don't think that once you've done this and applied it, there's nothing more you can do. You can come in and edit and change these at any point in the future. So now that we've created our custom post type and we've assigned the fields to it, let's take a look at it in action. First of all, let's come into posts and we'll go to all posts. And the reason I'm coming here is I want to show you that these custom fields are not being displayed. So once we come into all posts, come on. Now let's open up a post and take a look. So if we open that up, you can see we've got no custom post type fields at all in here. However, if we go to the events and say add new, you can see there's our event date, our event location, and our event time. So just combining custom post types and advanced custom fields with a simple bit of query logic in the, or conditional logic, you can see that we can ensure that only the fields we want show up on the certain post types. So very easy and very flexible. So let's just put an event in so we've got something to test. So we'll just say, we'll call this sample event. We'll drop some text in there. We'll add a featured image. So we'll just choose anything from here. So we'll say this photography one and say select that. So there's nothing that's new there. That's all the sort of standard sort of custom post type information. Now we've got the event dates. So you can see we've got a little red star by the side of these to say that these three are required fields. So we click on the event date. You can now see we've got a nice date picker that we can go and choose exactly what date that we want this to be applied to. So let's just set that to the 31st of August. The event location. So we'll just put in a sample sort of event location. We'll just drop date in there and we'll just come into the event time and we'll say this starts at 9 o'clock. So we'll just publish that. So we've created our first sample post and there are custom post type under events. So publish that. You come back now and we've created the first event. So let's go and create another one so we've got something in there so we can show. So we just say add a new one and we'll do the same again. So I'll just pre-fill this out so we've got a couple of events we can use in our templates. So now we've created our new event. And we have a couple of events in there. The next thing we need to do is set our template up, or our templates, for both the archive and for the single post details inside Elementor Pro. So let's do that next. So the template tools in Elementor Pro really are great and they work really, really well with custom post types. So what we're going to do is come into Elementor, we're going to come into My Templates. We're going to create our first template in there. So we're going to come in and we're going to say Add New. Then we're going to choose the type of template that we want. So we're going to come in there and we're going to say we want this to be an archive. We're going to create the archive first of all, which is effectively the listing page for all of the events that we have. So let's click on archive. We're going to call this event archive. Always good to give it a name that actually makes sense. Create a template. That's going to take us through now, so we could choose a template if we wanted to, or we can just bypass that and start creating our own. So it's entirely up to you if you want to use one of these predefined templates. They can get you up and running a lot quicker, but also you can just as easily bypass those if you want to. For now, I'm going to bypass that. I'm going to click to close that down and we'll create our own custom archive. Now you might think we'd use the archive options that are kind of highlighted at the top of the panel on the left hand side. If we do that, we have no real control over the query that needs to be used. So we're not going to use that. We're going to come down and we're going to choose posts. So we're going to drag that over and you might think, well, we're not using posts, we're using a custom post type, which is events. Well, we just need to tell it what to do. So if we look under the layout section, we can just close that down and we want query. Now at the moment it says source is set to posts, which as you'd expect, seeing is the post layout. But we can click on there and you can see we can choose from other options. So we have events, which are a custom post type. We click on that now, you can see that will now load in the two events that we've just set up and style them with the basic information. So we can easily come over now and back into the layout and we can customize this. So we don't want to use the classic layout, we can use cards. We can easily come in and customize and fine tune and tweak to get exactly the layout we want. So I'm just going to make a couple of simple little adjustments on here, nothing special, but just to get me up to speed with what's actually being displayed. So we don't want to have read more on there, we don't want the badge on there, we don't want the avatar on there. You can see I can adjust the image ratio if I want to, so I can fine tune and tweak to get the layout that I'm happy with, posts per page, the number of columns, all those kinds of good things. We can control it on a desktop, a tablet and a mobile, so we can fine tune and tweak this to get exactly what we want on there. But let's just say I'm happy with that. I just come in and just adjust the margins on there. Oops, wrong one. Adjust the margins or padding on the top and bottom there. So we set 50 on the top, 50 on the bottom, just so we get a nice bit of space. And we'll click on publish. Once we do that, it's going to come and say what are the conditions that you want to use to be able to display this post, or this template, sorry. Add a condition. You can see it says all archives. We don't want that. We just simply want to come in and say we want it to apply to the date archive. Once we do that, we now say this applies to the date archive, and any other archives that will display posts and so on will not be laid out like this. This is exclusive to just the date archive. Click on publish, and we are pretty much done on the archive setup for our dates. So that's the first thing. Now let's go back and create the template for the individual posts. So when we click and go and take a look at any of our events, this will be the design that's used on those particular pages. So come back into the template section now for Elementor. And all we need to do is add another template, add a new template. This time we're going to come in and we're going to say we want this to be a single. So it's going to be for the single post type. Select the post type. Again, you can see we have the option in there for event, which is our custom post type. We're going to click on that and we're going to call this event single template. so we'll know what it actually refers to. Now we filled out those basic details, we just click on Create Template, and again we're taken through to go and choose any of the predefined template layouts, which we can easily just ignore, jump out of that, and we come back into the normal editor for Elementor. And now we can create the layout we want to use for our individual custom post type. So now we can just use any of the single post type options on the left hand side. This is all dynamic data, so if we want to, we can just simply pull the post title in. Give it a second, you can see it pulls in some relevant data. If we want to change that, we can simply come to the cog icon in the bottom left hand corner. We've got event single template, that's all fine. We want the preview settings. You can see it pulls up dynamic content as event. In other words, it's pulling from the event's custom post type. And we can then go in and choose any of the events that we've got. So if we just start typing in, you can see it pulls up all the ones that match what we type in. So we say sample event, apply and preview. You'll see the title will now update and change to show us that new preview. So now we can come in and we can just add whatever we want in. So we can say we put the featured image in there, for example. That'll drop that in. And you can see us putting the right pictures and everything in for us. So we can now go through and customize this to get a look that we want, just by simply using any of these single post options. Again, we can say we can pull in the content, drop that underneath. So very easy, we can build out that template. So I'm not going to go through the process of building all this out. I'll pause the video and I'll show you the end template I've worked with. But you can see that once we've set it up to pull in the data from our custom post type, the rest is exactly the same as you'd expect from Elementor. Okay, so I've basically styled out the default content. So I've done nothing more with any of the dynamic data. I've just used the single post info. However, when we want to pull in that additional data, so the date, the time, and so on, how do we do that? Well, there's no options available at this point for including any of that. So what we need to do is come down into our text editor area under the basics section. We can drag and drop that over. And all we're going to do is we're going to come in and we're going to choose the dynamic data information in there. So it'll ignore whatever's typed into this box and allow us to choose where we want to pull dynamic data from. So we say we're post custom field. Click on there and you can see that pulls down and gives the option for the key and advanced. So we just choose select and the key. You can see that now shows all of the custom fields that we've got, the post custom fields. So the first thing we want to do is put the date in. So you can see that pulls the data. Now it's not displayed in the right format, and I'll show you how to correct that in a couple of moments. But what we're going to do is put something in front of that to say that, well, what does this number relate to? This is where we can use the advanced section. If we expand that out, you can see we can put something before, after, or we can put a fallback value in there. So what we're going to do is we're going to put before, we're going to say event date, full colon and a space. Give it a second or so, that'll update. We can also use HTML in here. So if we put strong in, so we want to make this bold, and come to the end and do the same thing at the end. So we close those down. You can see after a couple of seconds, it will update and show those in bold. So that's really easy. We can do the same thing then for another one. So we're going to simply come in, or we could just come down and duplicate this. We can right click on there, duplicate that. We can then come in and just simply edit the custom post field in there. So we want the location to be in there. Come into advanced and we'll just change that from event date to event location. And we'll do the same again one more time. We'll duplicate that and we'll come in and set up the event date. Time. Event time. Change that to event time in there. And we should be good to go. So there's our custom fields already set up for us now. We've easily come in and adjusted the time, the location, and so on. So now we've done that, we can just simply save this out. And then when we should do that, we get the conditions that we want to apply this to. So let's take a look at those conditions. So once we hit save, you can see it brings us into this condition section, and it already pre-fills in pretty much what we want to do. So it says the event is the type. So you can click in there, you can see all the different options. Event is fine, that's what we want. And we want this to be used on all of the event that are actually listed. So once we click on an archive and we click on the details, we'll get taken through, so any event will now use this template. Click on publish, that's our condition set up, and we're now pretty much good to go. So we can take a look at that in action. But before we do, let's go in and sort that date problem out, because at the moment it's displaying incorrectly. So jump back into my custom field section and open up the events details. What we're going to do is we're going to adjust this date, because at the moment the format is incorrect. So you can see it says he wants to store it as year, month, day, and then display it like this. Now this is one of those weird little quirks. It doesn't seem to display it the way you want. But if we change that now to a different format, so we're going to just say we want this to be day / month / year. We'll just update that. And one of the annoying things with this is we've updated it, but if we come back over and we take a look at that template we created, it won't display correctly because we need to go back in and re-enter the dates into our events. So we come back in and we'll say all events. We can come into this event now, we'll edit it quickly, come down, you see the event date has now disappeared, so we can click on this, set that back to be the date that we want, update that one, come back into all events again, and we'll do the second one. So this is always worthwhile, running a couple of tests just to make sure everything is working before you start putting data in correctly. So that now is everything updated, the dates and everything are in the way that we want, in the format that we want. So now let's take a look at those particular templates in action. So there we go, there's the archive. You can see there's our 2 posts, all the details set up the way we want. Once I click, that'll take us in then to the new template that we've created specifically to display that individual event post. And as you can see, our format for our date is correct, our time's in there, and our event location. So that really is just a very basic way of doing it. Now, there's one other thing you need to know before we move on. The template for these individual posts will display whenever one of those event posts is clicked on. But to be able to get to access the actual template for the archive, we need to create a page and include the shortcode that is the template for that from Elementor. So let me just quickly show you to do that, and then we'll wrap this video up. So to jump back over, we're going to jump back into Elementor, into my templates. And you can see there's the template code. So I'm going to simply copy that. We'll come back in now to our pages, and we're going to say we want to add a new page. So we're going to call this events list. And what we're going to do is we're simply going to drop in the short code. So we're going to jump over to the text, drop the short code in there, switch back, and if we want to make any changes to the template layout, you know, the sort of the Ocean WP, if you're using that theme, you can do that. We'll leave that as for now. Click on publish. Now if we take a look at that page, you can see there's our template with everything set up. When we click on any of there, we'll jump in and take a look at the actual post itself. So it's very, very easy to do that.
Well, there we go. That's what I wanted to cover in today's video. Hopefully what it's demonstrated is just how much power is available to you by using these plugins, custom post types, advanced custom fields alongside the Elementor Pro templating system. What it should give you is a good grounding in how you can use these tools to create much more bespoke, much more advanced websites very easily. If you did enjoy the video, please give it a thumbs up, smash that subscribe button, and hit the bell icon below to be notified every time new content is added to the channel. Speaking of the channel, if you'd like to support what we do around here and help us create more great content for you, please use those affiliate links in the description below. It doesn't cost you any more money, but it does give a small percentage back to the channel and help support us. As always, if you've got any comments, questions or feedback on this video, please pop those in the comments section below. Let's get our conversation started. As always, my name's been Paul C. This has been WPTuts, and until next time, take care.